There's many good reasons to avoid The Outer Worlds 2. Reason 1, you're participating in the boycott movement against the Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard King, Paramount, Skydance, Walmart, Amazon, wimpy corporate umbrella. Reason 2, 2025 was another year with a lot of great games to play instead, the success of which meant that over 8 game developers got to keep their jobs. Reason 3, unfortunately, it's mid. Now, I'm an internet gaming man in the 25 to 35 age bracket, so I of course believe the following: Fallout 3 bad, New Vegas good, I love Obsidian. I've never had an original thought in my life. I liked Outer Worlds 1, so I was primed to enjoy the sequel, and I even hoped that the influx of Microsoft filth money would let Obsidian paint on a larger canvas, because Microsoft are business geniuses.
Okay, so then what did you do with the $100,000?
I invested it and then I turned it into $16,000.
Instead, I found The Outer Worlds 2 underwhelming, but in a very interesting way. I began writing notes for this during my first couple of hours, dizzy with bad review bloodlust. But as time went on, I was sometimes less underwhelmed, and there were even moments when I was simply whelmed. This sheer whelming kept me playing to the end, but left me feeling as cold and hollow as the far reaches of space. And now I need to make it your problem. Like and subscribe, etc. This IGN review concurs with some of my thoughts. The first couple of hours are boring, but it picks up after a while. The reviewer even says that on finishing the game he wanted to start again and try a different playthrough. For me, not so much. I did not get on with the writing in this game. I found it to be dense, uninspired and obtuse. Every character speaks in long sentences, filled with flim-flam and blah blah and gobbledygook. The best lines come from you, the player. You get an incredible range of responses to choose from, and I appreciated how often I had the option to tell someone to shut up. I think the problem is that there are 3 main factions in Outer Worlds 2 that a character can be from, and they all have different reasons for talking complicated nonsense. Number 1, the Protectorate. The cartoonishly evil totalitarian fascists. They speak in archaic language because they're religious fanatics who get brainwashed if they don't toe the line of perfection. Number 2, Andy's Choice. The cartoonish capitalists. They speak in flim-flam because it's baby's first anti-capitalist satire and everyone has to use corporate nothing speak and hilarious stuff about 5% efficiency gains at the poo-poo pee-pee factory or whatever. Wow. Great satire, guys. I'm sure Jeff Bezos is quaking in his yacht. Number 3, the Order of the Ascendant. The cartoonishly bookish science nerds. They used to be part of the Protectorate, but then they split off into their own thing, and their religion is based on maths. So they're always talking in longer bleak sentences because they're both quasi-religious and always on that nerd grind set with the sci-fi techno babble. In the writing process, there was clearly a focus on maintaining this characterization and demonstrating these different worldviews, but it made these conversations a chore to sit through. Talking to people is the main thing I enjoy about this type of game. It fulfills my power fantasy of having charisma or being able to lie, so it really detracts from the experience when the dialogue is all so grating. You simply cannot have a game where everyone talks like this. On paper, the overall plot should be gripping and self-motivating. There's an immense rift in space-time which threatens the very existence of the colony. There's a bloody war taking place between 3 factions whose ideologies are incompatible-ish. To top it off, you get betrayed in the first mission by a close ally, so you're on a revenge mission. Cool. In practice, I didn't feel motivated to advance the plot, and it's tricky to pinpoint why. I felt my eyes glazing over, and my experience tended to be, I guess I have to kill my way through a building to get to the magic box they keep in the back. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, I suppose. It's hard to tell whether I didn't care because I was so unengaged by the dialogue, or because there was too much sci-fi techno babble, like we have to modulate the doodad in order to process the angular sublimation data, or if I've just had my attention span supernovaed by watching decontextualized clips of Grey's Anatomy on YouTube Shorts. Many of the quests are dull and bland, with a few highlights amongst the companion quests, which would have been even more successful if I was able to believe that any of my companions were experiencing an emotion at any point. In one quest that was genuinely a highlight, you have to infiltrate the facility where the Protectorate do their brainwashing, but the only way to do that is to pretend to be a patient. It was a really immersive, self-contained experience that made me empathise with the people who live in this society. You get to discover the sci-fi technological ins and outs, sneak around and help someone escape, and once you find the scientist in charge of the whole thing, you can have a long and in-depth discussion about ethics and whatnot, or you can shoot his entire head off. Good luck debating me with facts and logic now, nerd. Outer Worlds 2 is a boring story, but it's a great RPG. Its systems of character customization and player choice are where you can actually feel the decades of RPG experience that Obsidian has. I loved picking a backstory, picking specialist skills, bonuses, and even flaws. This game builds on the flaws system from Outer Worlds 1. The game watches how you play, and occasionally pops up with optional character flaws. Maybe you get shot by a robot too many times and now you're afraid of robots. Maybe you're bad with money, so your polycule opens a savings account. The funniest flaw is that if you spend too much time crouching, you get bad knees. This means you get a bonus when sneaking, but your knees occasionally make a loud cracking sound that alerts enemies. It feels like they had a lot of fun making these. By the end of the game, I had an arsenal of perks and flaws, and I genuinely felt like I'd shaped a character with a specific combat style. After struggling with tricky combat in the first few hours, it actually feels rewarding to me to stomp the last few combat encounters as the over-leveled behemoth that I was. This is the bittersweet thing about the Outer Worlds 2's Mid-ness. There's some great game design and artistry in this, but it's all in service of a hollow nothingness. Unfortunately, it's not that interesting to invest in speech skills when the bad guys are so cartoonishly bad that it's 100% justified to just shoot them. It's not interesting to make choices in a world where everything is kind of dull and you don't care about anyone. It's not interesting to choose which faction to align with when the factions are so two-dimensional. In one mission near the end, you have to fix some kind of supercomputer thing, and the three ideologies of the game are literally three different coloured buttons, which might as well be labelled evil, evil 2, and boring. In my playthrough, I hit the boring button, and there seemed to be zero consequences. Fundamentally, and I say this as a sci-fi fan, The Outer Worlds is just not a very interesting setting. The hook for the first game was the future is owned by unscrupulous corporations, and it's debatable how well that paid off. The setting for Outer Worlds 2 is just bastards in space. In my opinion, if you're gonna do a Fallout style game, you do need an actual wasteland. The lawlessness and brutal wilderness of, for example, the Mojave Desert is what makes the RPG player choice fantasy really work. The Outer Worlds 2 tries to scratch that itch with wild animals, active war zones, and people who it's definitely okay to kill because they're raiders slash cultists slash insane slash on drugs or whatever. But it feels shallow because it's clearly been done in a whoops, how do we make sure that people doing a good guy playthrough still get combat experience kind of way. As I said in the clickbait title, The Outer Worlds 2 is mid. Not terrible. It reminds me of how I felt about Deathloop, a stylish game with great moment-to-moment mechanics that don't quite tie together in the overall game. I feel that both of these are not necessarily great games, but great game engines. I think that Outer Worlds 2 is a handsome skeleton that just needs some more interesting meat on its bones. And maybe that makes absolutely no sense. Sorry, I put all my skill points into bad metaphors. Thanks very much for watching. If you want more content, I can make more if you want. Let me know down below if you do want more content, but no worries if not. Also, you should just play Pentiment instead of this game. Pentiment's really good, but you know, there is the Xbox boycott still, so maybe just don't bother.